Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Jeff Swan with us. He's solving sales and marketing challenges with HubSpot. He's a founder and chief growth strategist at HubSOS in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. I was previously managing partner and M&A advisor at Southside M&A Group, which is quite interesting, and generally been an advisor and a founder at a bunch of other companies through his career, including RevUp Sales, Drive Fab Flood Defense. He also even had a podcast called Fill the Funnel. Pretty sure he's going to start a new podcast pretty soon after that. Podfire.com is presenting this podcast. We help people start their own podcasts and generate leads, insights, connections, and yeah, just good old conversations. So go to podfire.com if you need help with your podcast. Jeff, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Yeah, thank you so much for the kind introduction and for inviting me to your show. So my background, as you mentioned some of the things, but it stretches back about 2 decades where my focus has really been in managing, building, or optimizing high growth, high performing revenue teams. So I've typically worked in the tech space. I've also done in industrial and adjacent industries, but I have a passion for helping growing companies grow faster. And so all of my business decisions, and if you look at my background, all of my business decisions have been along the lines of helping those achieve that kind of target. And recently, I've actually updated my company to become a HubSpot certified solutions partner. So it kind of takes all of that I've learned throughout my years of how to make sales more efficient, make marketing more effective, like all that kind of stuff. And now HubSpot has optimized itself over like the last 13 years that I've been using it. And they're now a very robust and powerful platform that incorporates industry leading automations. And they're starting to really dabble into AI, and I'm going to call it functional AI. So not just AI for the sake of having it, but like it actually does save time and save, marketers and sales reps time in their day to day. And so really my focus with that business is, you mentioned my M&A background as well. And so working in tech, I'm in these founder conversations all the time for raising money and that kind of stuff. And I've noticed that through M&A, through buying, selling companies and helping fundraise, the one biggest metric that has the biggest impact on your valuation is your revenue per employee. So now I use HubSpot and my background in sales and marketing to optimize revenue per employee by not cutting costs, but optimizing conversion and revenue per cost.
Right. And why are you bullish on HubSpot? I've been using it for years and always unsubscribed at some point because I didn't see the value. I am bullish on Dharmesh, the CTO of HubSpot and co-founder, but HubSpot not so much. Why should people use HubSpot specifically, and what specific implementation do when you have a new client that brings them better revenue?
Yeah, so I've worked with several CRMs. I've been strategically partnered with companies like Salesforce and Marketo and Outreach.io, a whole bunch of the kind of like the top tools in sales and marketing, industry leaders. And what I found was that I always have gravitated towards technology that's intuitive, easy to use, doesn't require a specific like dedicated staff member who knows everything about the tool in order to actually get the job done. And what I found since starting, like HubSpot, when I first started, I thought it was a cute little tool. It's kind of cool. It does some things really well, but it always left me wanting more. That's why I partner with Salesforce and Marketo. They could do so much, right? What's really cool is now they can do all of the things that I used to do in those robust and excellent tools, but now with that super intuitive user interface. So instead of me spending my consulting time teaching you how to use a tool, I spend time teaching you how to operate kind of more advanced sales plays or advanced marketing campaigns and that kind of stuff with HubSpot. And you can learn the tool yourself in minutes,
And what would you implement? Let's say that I hire you to pimp my HubSpot and add, I don't know, lead qualification, lead scoring, emailing at various steps. what specifically would you do for my company to improve my revenue or my conversions at every stage of the pipeline?
Sure, great question. And what I like to start engagements with is a funnel audit. So I like to look at, where you're getting your business, how's it coming through, where the kind of hiccups are happening. So have you ever heard the term funnel leaks?
Yes, of course. By the way, my funnel, just so you know, podcasts,
Yeah.
then inviting people to masterminds, then free stuff, including my newsletter, my content and support, then becoming clients and me eventually investing in their business after a couple months.
Right. And I see you use StreamYard, which is a really awesome tool for hosting podcasts. And we were talking about, even before we got on, about how you can easily share it to your social feed and everything like that. So what I would do is I'd look at the areas where you're doing manual labor, data entry, just different things that are holding you back on running that funnel really smoothly. And again, I'm going to go backwards for a second, but the reason why I choose HubSpot is because it's an all-in-one solution rather than what we call point solutions. That's like a tool that's really good for one thing, but it doesn't necessarily do other things very well. And what I would do is connect your StreamYard, connect all of your technology into HubSpot as a core. And so you could manage that all in one space. And instead of having, let's say, this connects to your social media, then you have like a constant contact to manage your email automations. And then you might have like a Salesforce CRM or something like it to house your sales data. What I would do is actually bring all of those in, migrate all of the data into the one tool. So you'd have that single source of truth. So when you're talking to me on your podcast, I'm in HubSpot right from the get-go, right? Your StreamYard campaign would go through and funnel through that HubSpot on my account so the history of me working with you is on there right from the get-go. And then when you invite me to the mastermind, then you have an event that's actually in HubSpot through a meeting schedule. And this meeting scheduler allows you to do one-on-one or one-to-many. So you can do masterminds on there. And again, that's not having to go to Calendly or another tool. You can do it right in there. Okay. And then all the while you have this communication. So it might be text communication, might be email, might be phone calls, those kind of things, but you can automate all of those workflows in HubSpot through one simple, easy to use interface.
Interesting. Yeah, just piece everything together Frankenstein style with Zapier or Make. I know it's probably less efficient, less centralized, but yeah, that's how I do it. By the way, I start with Calendly, right? Like Calendly, then Google Calendar, and so forth. Is there a way in which we can use AI functions? For example, today I did a Zap, feed it a Calendly information to GPT. And from that Calendly information, GPT checks the LinkedIn profile, what the guest sent me as information, and comes up with 10 questions on the podcast, right? Can you do such things with HubSpot? How's the AI in there so far?
Yeah. So one of the things that it does, so I'll give you an example of a call I was on last week. So it was a Zoom meeting. Okay. So the Zoom meeting call, it records the call. I had Zoom record the call, and then I got a transcript directly from Zoom. It went directly into HubSpot. And then HubSpot has this little dashboard that allows you to actually read the transcript and ask questions about it. So it will summarize the meeting. So it'll say, okay, Charles really cares about these 3 things. He and Jeff discussed these 5 things. And then Jeff agreed to do these 2 things after the meeting. And so it gives you that quick summary that's automatic. And you can kind of interact with it and ask it different questions like, okay, what software does Charles use for podcast hosting? Right. And then it will tell me. So then, and then you can ask it just very simply to ask for email summary. So, okay, now that we've wrapped up the call, give me an email summary, and the AI tool will actually do that for you. So all you have to do is copy it, put it into your email program or your HubSpot email, and then your entire follow-up is done for you.
Right. Very interesting. And I'm curious about how you got there, because yes, you were director of marketing at many places, but then you started an anti-flood company called DryFab Flood Defense. You got acquired, and while you were doing that, you were doing like rev up sales, right? And once you got acquired, you were a managing partner at Southside M&A Group. So is there like a logical, chronological sequence to all of that? What is linking all of that together?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I have a little secret that I'm going to share with you here, but I've really operated the same business for 20 years. So all of these positions and things that I've had are projects that I really believed in. So the ones that I've published are the ones that I've kind of taken over myself. I found, for example, I was working for a client in Brooklyn, New York, who was in the flood mitigation industry. And I was able to help them generate 100% year over year revenue growth within 5 months of the next year. Okay. And I saw this industry as just like a ripe opportunity for me to, I grew up on the job site. I grew up in fire and flood restoration. So it was like back to my roots, but also leveraging HubSpot. And we did use HubSpot to generate wicked revenue there. And so I doubled down and I said, okay, well, I'm going to put my own personal money into investing in a company, still operating my consulting practice, still working with other clients, but I wanted to do this on my own, and had a good couple of year run, got some attention from some investors, and they ended up buying my business. And fun fact now, that got me interested in actually looking into M&A and seeing what that was all about. So again, I'm still operating my consulting clients, still doing the sales and marketing coaching, but I thought, hey, why not try buying and selling businesses and raising funds? And it was really cool. Like I really enjoyed that. Did that for a couple of years. Yeah, about a couple of years. And had some really neat projects, met some great people. But my passion still remains, optimizing sales and marketing. So I always come back to it, and I always come back to that as like my core. But I like these little side projects because they enhance my experience. They get me to meet people that I normally wouldn't meet, like in different sides of the organizations that I deal with, that kind of stuff. And yeah, like it all comes together now that I'm kind of bringing it all together into this one easy package bucket.
Love it. And M&A, are you still doing some of that? Are you bullish on M&A, or is it like a very long-term game in a patience game, and it doesn't provide much cash flow?
Yeah, well, and you touched on it. You hit the nail on the head. There is that when you close a deal in M&A, it can be really lucrative. So it can make in one deal I can make as much as my company in the entire year in consulting, right? But the thing is that it is a long-term deal. It is a long-term sales cycle, and it requires a lot more than just side hustle time, right? So I had to make the decision: do I continue doing M&A and trying to like doing deals at the side of my desk, or do I go back fully into consulting? And so I made the decision to go fully into consulting because, quite frankly, the cash flow is better. It's a more repeatable business, and I guess I got used to just being able to go out there and sell and have that funnel like you were talking about, where you can see your stats, and you get a meeting, you have a pretty good opportunity and pretty good understanding of what it's going to mean to your bottom line. You get that constant cash flow. And for me, it was just a more attractive business.
Yeah, too much golfing in the VC side of things. That'd be pretty boring. Tell me a bit more about like how you find interesting niches, because the flood defense one is quite odd. You mentioned something about your childhood. Is it just about finding old industries that are not using technology correctly and the market being ripe for what they have to offer? You come in, integrate the tech stack, and then see them grow. How do you actually identify product market fit?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my primary market is the tech business because, like I was told by one of my clients once that me and my partners were the bleeding edge that taught the bleeding edge. So we really like those high growth companies that their whole ethos is very aligned with mine. So that works 100%. However, I always try to keep like 20-30% of my revenue base from industries, as you just described, where they might be running a really successful construction company or concrete company or something like that. And they're doing well by just, using a pad and pen or whatever to write their notes on sales calls. And they're still driving to job sites to sell to people and all those different things. And I love being able to walk into a company like that and just be able to optimize everything that they haven't even thought about or didn't think it was possible or thought it was too high tech for them to think about. Like, I love making those companies understand that tech can be easy with the right partners.
Right. The podcast, I think you co-hosted it with Tom, which I had on my podcast as well, Tom Slocum. Shout out to Tom. Why did you stop the pod? Why not scale it?
You know what? We were doing, I think by the time I finished, it was at about 54 episodes, something like that. And I found that I was telling the same story every time, and I found that when I do something, when I commit myself to a project or anything like that, I like to give it my all. And I found that if I wasn't interested in telling more stories, if I didn't think there was more to cover in that particular one, I would, I'm not going to do it. So I search the great story, the amazing news story that I think people need to hear, and don't be surprised if I come up with something similar, but on a different topic.
And what was your thesis behind the podcast? Lead gen, content, insights. Why a podcast?
In truth, so Tom and I were running a community called Rev League at the time. So it was like gamification for sales. And what we recognized is that our time was so full of our community and just helping them out and hosting events and all these different things. And we were saying similar things at each event. And so what we realized is that, for us to get the most amount of help out there to our community without having to physically sit there on one-on-ones all day or group sessions, let's take the lessons we're telling everybody and put them on a pod and give it to our people. So it worked out really well. I mean, our community were avid subscribers. They loved the podcast, mentioned them every day, and it was a great way for us to be able to help the community without having to be there.
Your HubSpot business, who do you target precisely? Who's your ICP, and how do you get in touch with them? Any cold email outreach, LinkedIn outreach? What are you most bullish on GTM wise?
Yeah, great question. So I'm very lucky for myself. I've amassed a very large network in my 2-decade career. I've been on founder hot seats, startup events where I'm judging or mentoring new startup founders on pitch competitions, that kind of stuff. So one of the large channels that I have is just referrals from people in my network. And I go out, speak to my network people, just let them know what I'm doing, and just give them a very easy way to refer me business. And then I have a pretty nice little referral commission that I share with people. They tend to like that, but most of my network tends to do it for free, But for those who don't know me personally, why not? I also do a lot of work with the HubSpot growth specialists, so the people that are talking to customers every day. And I give them every little bit of enablement possible to help do their jobs better. And then when we work together, I make a point of making it the easiest, seamless, less work for them to do on actually closing a new client on HubSpot. So that's a big one for me. And then, yes, I do cold outreach myself. Typically start with LinkedIn, move into email, and then do some cold calls to wrap it up. I don't have a huge need for like a huge pipeline with a small team that I have right now. So right now I'm really focusing on quality, not quantity. But I will be, once we hit that 7-figure mark, I'm going to switch to more scale approach. But by then I'll have a really good understanding of my messaging and have it nice and tight.
And what's next for you this year? What are your top objectives?
Sure. My goal is to onboard 12 new clients to HubSpot. So I'm looking to gain the experience and gain the client base from, helping those companies that may not have ever heard of it, like we mentioned earlier. You asked about ICP. I'm going to answer that now. It's companies that are 1 to 10 million with a growth mindset and mostly B2B focused, where they want to enable sales and marketing for success. And so my goal is to really get at least 12 clients on board this year, so that I can get them on the platform, optimized and running. and to really crush it. And on that note, I should tell you, my last client, the last project we just finished, they told me that in January it was the best month they've ever had for gross profit and sales, and then the February they actually doubled their highest month ever in revenue and units sold. So I'm really excited about that, and I want to create at least 12 more stories like that for this year.
And what's their niche?
They're automotive.
Automotive. Okay, so it's like on B2C, right?
B2C, yeah.
Very interesting. Cool. Jeff, nice having you on the pod. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, you can always follow me on LinkedIn. So that's Jeff Swan on LinkedIn, easy to find. Or you can go to my website, which is HubSOS, HUBSOS.com.
Was Jeff Swan and Charles Cormier for another